Arjun and Meera's love story was the kind people envied. They met in a small cafe years ago, where Arjun was scribbling ideas for his next novel, and Meera, a teacher, had come to grade papers. Their first conversation was about poetry, and within minutes, their connection felt undeniable. Fast forward to 5 years later, their life together was seemingly perfect. Arjun worked from home, pouring his soul into his novels, while Meera balanced her career as a teacher with taking care of their little haven. She was his biggest supporter, often reading his drafts late into the night and offering feedback that sometimes stung, but always helped him improve. But as time passed, things began to shift. Arjun's recent novel, which he had worked on for 2 years, was rejected by publishers. He was crushed, retreating into his shell. Meera tried to cheer him up, encouraging him to write again, but her words felt like empty consolation to him. To Arjun, Meera's optimism seemed almost irritating now. He grew distant, often brushing off her attempts to talk or spend time together. Meanwhile, Meera remained her usual cheerful self, but she started stepping out more frequently, attending school functions, meeting friends, or staying late for work. One evening, she came home unusually late, carrying a bag of groceries and humming softly. Arjun asked her where she'd been, but her answer, just out with some colleagues, felt vague to him. The warmth they once shared was still there, but a faint crack had appeared in their bond, one that neither acknowledged, yet both could feel. Doubt crept into Arjun's mind one small moment at a time. It started with a text message. Arjun noticed her phone light up while she was in the kitchen. The screen flashed a message from a male colleague. "Tonight at 8. Don't forget." Arjun tried to brush it off, but the words lingered. That night, he couldn't sleep. His mind began spinning scenarios. Who was this man? Why hadn't Meera mentioned meeting him? What was happening at 8? The next day, he observed her closely. Meera seemed distracted, smiling at her phone now and then, but when Arjun asked her about it, she gave a vague response. "It's nothing important." As days turned into weeks, Arjun started noticing more things. Meera was more guarded with her phone, always keeping it face down or in her bag. She stayed late at work more often, came home exhausted, and sometimes didn't even eat dinner with him. Arjun's imagination filled in the gaps. He began tracking her movements discreetly, checking the time she left and returned home, noticing changes in her routine. His heart ached with confusion and fear. The love they once shared now felt fragile, and the whispers of doubt grew louder with every unanswered question. One evening, Meera came home later than usual, her face flushed from the cold. She greeted Arjun with a warm smile, but he didn't return it. Instead, he stood in the doorway, his arms crossed. "Who is he, Meera?" he asked, his voice low but trembling. Meera froze. "What are you talking about?" she asked, taken aback. "Don't play dumb," Arjun shot back, his anger bubbling to the surface. "You've been lying to me, staying out late, hiding your phone. Do you think I'm blind?" Meera's expression shifted from shock to hurt. She tried to respond, but Arjun cut her off, his voice rising. "You think I don't notice? The texts, the late nights? Who is he, Meera? Just tell me the truth." Tears filled Meera's eyes, but she didn't shout back. Instead, she walked to the table, pulled out her phone, and placed it in front of him. "Here," she said quietly. "If you think I'm hiding something, take a look." She then left the room, leaving Arjun alone with her phone. With shaking hands, Arjun unlocked her phone. At first, he hesitated, staring at the screen. Then he opened her messages and began reading. What he found wasn't what he expected. The messages between Meera and her male colleague weren't romantic. They were about planning a surprise literary evening for Arjun. The event was meant to showcase his unpublished works to a group of local writers and publishers, an attempt to reignite his confidence. The "Tonight at 8" message referred to a meeting with the event organizers. The late nights were spent coordinating every detail of the event. She had even contacted a publisher Arjun admired to attend as a guest speaker. As he scrolled further, Arjun found photos of the scrapbook Meera had been secretly working on. It was filled with his rejection letters, along with handwritten notes of encouragement. "Your time will come. This doesn't define you. You're stronger than this." Overwhelmed, Arjun leaned back in his chair, guilt washing over him. His doubts had blinded him to the love and effort Meera had been putting into supporting him. That evening, Arjun found Meera sitting on the balcony, staring at the night sky. She didn't turn to look at him as he sat beside her. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I doubted you, and I doubted us. I don't deserve you." Meera finally turned to him, her eyes still glistening with unshed tears. "Arjun, trust isn't about never having doubts. It's about working through them together." He reached for her hand, and she let him take it. For the first time in weeks, they sat in silence, the tension between them melting away. The next weekend, Arjun stood on a stage at the literary evening Meera had planned. As he read excerpts from his work, he glanced at Meera in the audience. Her smile, filled with pride and love, reminded him of what he had almost lost. Sometimes, doubt isn't a reflection of the other person. It's a reflection of our own insecurities. Love, real love, isn't about never questioning. It's about finding your way back to trust, even after it's been broken.